Hey, Brian here with DIY Outdoor Life. And well, I finally did it. Some of you know I've been hemming and hawing for a couple years now on whether or not to get a e-bike, which e-bike to get, or if it would even be able to fit into my outdoor lifestyle. Traveling around the country with a tiny camper, space is limited. So today's the day. We're gonna talk about what I got and how my experience has been over the last 6 months of owning this bike. A lot to cover. Let's get to it. So folks, the bike I decided to go with was the KBO Flip bike. Now I was a value shopper on this one. You can get e-bikes for over $8,000. I was not in the market for a bike like that. I'm gonna put a link in my description to how I got this bike for $870, and I think it's gonna interest a lot of you. Now, when I started shopping for entry-level e-bikes, I was finding them around $1,200. That was at the high end of what my price point would be. And some of those bigger companies are making great bikes. They spend a lot more on marketing, but what I wanted to see was if they were offering anything to account for the other $300 to $400 that they were charging. Now, I was really happy when I tested this bike to find out that I think the quality stacks up for the price. So I'm by no means a bike expert, but I've spent a lot of time on this bike. I'm gonna take you through the features, some of the build quality, there's some pros and cons, and then we're gonna spend a little bit of time on how I fit this into the system. If you're traveling like me with a tiny camper, space is limited. So I wanted to get around using the bike rack, and I was able to do it with this rig. So let's start with some of these features. So folks, when I checked out the KBO website, they sell a whole bunch of different types of bikes. Some of them specialize in certain activities that people want out of an e-bike. There's road bikes, thin tires, the curved handlebars. They're more ergonomically designed to ride further, ride faster. They look nice, not for me. I needed a little bit more off-road capability. Now on the other side of the spectrum, they sell mountain bikes, fat tires, more suspension. They're set up to ride more technical trails. Now at my fitness level, I'd be more likely to ride in a helicopter if I tried to do that. So I was looking for something in between. They sell a cargo carrier, and that thing's pretty cool. It's a e-bike with a large rack to carry gear. It's got longer range. It would be good for like a Uber Eats delivery person. And I thought about that bike because I imagine putting like an EcoFlow power station and a solar panel with a tent and doing some pretty cool camping trips with that, but not this year. When I found the Flip bike, it was a perfect in-between of all of those different types of bikes. Most importantly, it folded up, and we're gonna talk about that. But it has the fat tires, which are fine for gravel and mild off-road use. It's got pedal assist and throttle only to send you down the road or help you when you're cycling. And as far as the comfort level and everything, it gave me that perfect in-between zone where I'd be able to use it on the trail and off the trail, and I'd still be able to pack it up. Couldn't beat the price. Now, if you start doing some research on e-bikes, and I did a whole ton of it, there's 1,000,001 different features. This is a 500-watt rear hub bike. So when I hit the throttle, the rear tire spins and not where the center hub spins. It's a really smooth ride. It's got a good sized battery in here, and it has both pedal assist as well as throttle only. That means for the 3 different levels of pedal assist, 3 being the most intensive, 1 being the most mild, as you're cycling, like a hybrid car, it propels you along with some of the battery power and the electric motor. This is really nice. It allows you to do more cycling while being in worse shape. You can go up a little bit steeper of a hill, or you can go on a further trek without exerting as much energy, and that's really what I was looking for. The throttle only is pretty neat. You can ride this like an electric dirt bike. They advertise that you can go up to 20 miles an hour. At my weight, I had this thing going 17, 18 miles an hour on throttle only, and that was more than enough. The KBO Flip comes with these nice fat tires. They're not quite the size of a mountain bike tire, but they're really nice on these state park trails, even the private campground trails. You could take it down a gravel road, but it also rides really nice on the pavement. Unlike those big knobby tires, again, they're shooting for that Goldilocks zone with this bike. It's got a Shimano derailleur with 7 gears. So the gears change on the rear side of the bike. You ride that just like the bike you rode as a kid. You can shift gears as you're going uphill, shift gears as you're going downhill or trying to go faster. There's an LCD screen. It has an odometer to track your miles, a speedometer. It's where you can turn on the headlight. It's where you can change the pedal assist from 1, 2, or 3. Now, of course, the bike has an adjustable seat, but they give you this nice cargo carrier. I've kind of cheaped out and I've been putting little, bags on it and milk crates and stuff. They do sell some nice like saddle bags for this thing if you want to granify it. And I'm not opposed to that. I think that's probably the next investment I'll make on this bike is that sweet ET basket and the big granny bag on the back. For how I'm using this thing, that is very, very important. Now there is a safety light on the back. You can turn this on and it illuminates a red light. But besides that, I think it's probably time to talk about the folding feature on this bike, which is really important. The main feature of the KBO Flip is that it folds in 2 points. If the handlebar tree folds down and the frame folds in half. It's a nice, sturdy, painted aluminum frame with heavy-duty buckles. It literally takes about 10 seconds to fold this bike up. Now we're going to talk about how I use this bike and how it comes along with me on these camping trips, but this became critical. One of the reasons I didn't go with the other types of bikes you can get on the market from this brand or others is that folding feature became key. If you're traveling with a teardrop, square drop, whether or not you have a pickup truck or not, a bike is an unusual, cumbersome item to bring with you. You either need a dedicated bike rack, which can be a pain, or you need to find a way to get this in the vehicle. By being able to fold this up, I can put it inside my teardrop. I can put it under the cap of the truck, lock it up and keep it out of the weather. But my favorite spot has actually become in the back seat of the truck. It folds up in a small enough spot that I still have room for ripple and I can access the bike in the back seat very, very easily. This bike comes with a removable lithium NMC battery. They're relatively inexpensive compared to the other bikes on the market. You'll be able to see the extra batteries on the website that I link in my description. You can get an additional battery, or after a few years of heavy use, if you're losing range, you can go ahead and replace the battery. It's got an AC charger. They advertise 55 miles of range of pedal assist and 30 to 35 miles of throttle only range. Now, I was able to test these out and I'm very impressed at my weight that I was actually able to achieve those numbers. I know those folks test them out with a smaller person than me and they ride on a track. I was actually out in real world scenarios. So my honest interpretation of this is the battery will probably sag after 100, 200 uses and I'll drop down slightly under that range. But I was really happy to see that they just weren't making crazy claims on their website. You do get that range out of this bike. Now, out of all the features on this bike, I really, really enjoy everything about it. I feel like it's solid and real high quality. If there was one area that I was a little bit worried about, it's that the KBO Flip comes with mechanical disc brakes. This is a step up from the little rubber pads that used to pinch the wheel on the bikes we grew up with. But when I tried out a whole bunch of different types of bikes, the hydraulic disc brakes were clearly a step up from the mechanical disc brakes. The reason I decided to go with this and where I think it actually worked in favor of the quality of this bike was that most of those other bikes were very, very expensive. Anytime I looked at a bike under $1,200, if it did have mechanical disc brakes, they're just trying to check a box. I found a real lousy, cheap set of those brakes. It looked impressive in the marketing, but when I tried it out, I was not impressed. I didn't think they were gonna hold up. So in that case, I wasn't too disappointed. This is a solid, reliable set of disc brakes, but when you squeeze the handles, you are actually mechanically squeezing those brake pads on the disc, opposed to that hydraulic assist that you find on the nicer bikes. And that's really nice if you want to spring for it. It is a nice feature. So the last thing I'll talk about before we discuss how this fits into my system, I mentioned that the battery is removable. There actually is a key. You can turn it on, off, remove the key, use the key to remove the battery out of this. It's really nice for charging. It's nice for security reasons. People steal e-bikes. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality. Even just removing the battery from this is one additional thing you can do to improve the security of owning one of these items that seem to like to walk off at the campsite. Now that hasn't happened to me, but I do like this key feature. It comes with 2 of them. They also include a nice little multi-tool that comes with the bike that helps you make adjustments if need be. I store it up underneath the seat, haven't had to use it yet, but it's cool that it came with it. But now the real important stuff, how did this fit into my system? What does it help me with? Was it a real pain to bring it around? I brought this thing all around the country this summer. So let's discuss some of those things now and then we'll wrap it up. So what it comes down to for me, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this, I have 3 main reasons why I wanted to get an e-bike so bad. The first one is just recreation. Any of you that have been out going to the state parks and campgrounds see these things buzzing around all the time. It looked like a lot of fun, maybe a good opportunity to check out some of these trail systems. There's always some like civilian conservation corps outposts or something in these parks. It's nice to have a little assist when you're going to do that if you're not in great shape. The next feature is a grocery getter. A lot of times when I pull into camp, my camper, my teardrop, stays attached to my truck. If I'm only staying for a night or I'm traveling on the road, there's no sense decoupling them and leveling it up. It means that it can be a big pain if I want to take the tow vehicle out to go pick up some groceries, get ice, whatever it is you need. This bike gave me a lot more range. Instead of decoupling the trailer, most times now I throw a book bag on, I ride into town, I enjoy the trip, and I'm actually able to go get some, some food items or whatever I'm missing when I'm out on the road. I definitely give it an A+ for that. That has been a huge, huge improvement on my camping experience. Even when my tow vehicle is decoupled, you guys who watch the channel know I have power stations back there, solar panels on the roof. It's not always easy to take the tow vehicle. I definitely encourage somebody who's thinking about it. If you're in that situation, the e-bike is definitely the way to go. Now, the last one, and I don't know if this will apply to everyone, but I wanted the e-bike to do some scouting, especially in the Northeast. I know it gets different when I move out west. In the Northeast, if you are boondocking, sometimes you are on fire roads or these small inaccessible roads in the Northeast. You know that there's free campsites down there, but when you go to drive down those trails, it's not uncommon to find downed trees, or since COVID happened, all of the campsites are full. You can't always turn around or negotiate your vehicle out of there, and it can turn a vacation into a nightmare. My good friend Cosmo, I know we all miss him. We used to talk about this all the time. He didn't show it on his channel, but he had jackknifed and bent and smashed up his Subaru several times going out solo and trying to scout those roads in Maine. Now what I do is I pull in, pull over to a stop, Lucia gets out with Ripple, I get on the e-bike and I can cruise down and see if those spots are open. Especially with this thing in the back seat, that's a major, major improvement as well. So the biggest downside that I had looking at this bike was how was I going to pack it? My vehicle is jammed full, and we'll finish the video talking about how I bring this thing along with me and how I'm still learning and open to your suggestions. So as I mentioned, the foldability of this bike was really, really important to me. I do not like the bike racks that go on the back of the teardrops. I know they're perfect for some people. I access my galley a lot while I'm traveling. I use the fridge back there. I didn't want to have to remove the bike every time. I also didn't want to deal with it being out in the weather. When you're backing up, you run the risk of bending that rack or smashing your bike into something. It just wasn't the right fit for me. There's some great options on the tongue of the trailer. I have that tongue box. I access that a lot. I really didn't want one of those options for bringing the bike along. I don't like putting it on the roof of the camper. I didn't want to put it on the roof of my truck. Things were really limited. It was either don't get an e-bike or find a solution to get this inside one of those vehicles. I was happy that when this bike folds up, I can actually stick it inside the teardrop. You put a little cheap tarp down, fold it up, and put it inside. I can fit it in the back cap of the truck. It's easier than a full non-foldable bike. My favorite solution is getting this thing in the back seat. I mentioned it earlier, but that's what makes it accessible for the grocery getting and the scouting trips. Ripple still has plenty of room back there. So that's been the solution for me. And I know everyone's situation is different. So I wanted to include that and also take suggestions. If some of you have these experiences, what are you doing with your e-bikes to bring you down the road? Now, I'm gonna wrap this video up now. I actually had filmed this a lot more intensively once before and lost the files. So sorry there's no drone shots or me riding around. It's just me standing in front of the bike. I actually tried out a lot of different bikes before making this video. So I do stand by KBO. I will give you updates the more I use it. Really appreciate you guys watching. And before I forget, I know a bunch of people are gonna ask me about power stations. My go-to for this bike is the EcoFlow River Pro. It is the perfect size. This bike takes 5-6 hours to charge, empty to full. Most of the time, you either leave it on overnight or just top it up a little bit. But that River 2 Pro charges so quickly from the wall. It's so light and it's so easy to set up solar panels with this. That's the power station. I pair them like wine with a meal. That's the power station I pair with this bike. You could even bring it along with you if you wanted to. But that would be my go-to with that lithium iron phosphate battery. The pure sine wave inverter, which is critically important. Don't charge this from like a contractor generator. So that's my recommendation on that. I appreciate it if you made it this far in the video. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.
That's going on the channel.
No, it is still not.